Hello. Hopefully this has gone live without a hitch. And hopefully we get a good bitrate going throughout it, and hopefully audio is also good, because there's several and significant changes to the place I'm streaming from, so we'll see how it goes. Actually, one thing I have not checked is making sure that my laptop doesn't throttle itself through overheating. And I've also forgot to check something, and I forgot what it was. Okay, no, it's all plugged in, it's all fine, we have the energy. Alright. My apologies for slight technical difficulties. I'll familiarize myself. Whoa, we are chugging for some reason. Hopefully that is not an indicator of things to come. It should be fine. The laptop's still the same. Used to run this game fine. Am I on like battery saver? No. Am I Java update available? Surely that's not it. I'm off a fresh restart. I have everything I should have. So, I'll get back into the groove of things, I guess, with time. I'm a little bit slow, usually, when it comes to getting used to new things. So, if you give me a little bit of time, I'll be comfortable again. I'm sitting closer to my monitor, I've realized. Everything looks strangely large compared to... Oh, actually no, it's because I spent the last like 2 days working just from the laptop screen. That's why I think everything's suddenly so big, because I'm used to looking at the tiny laptop. And now I have like my full monitor is back, so exciting. I actually can see things. I can read text even. Wonderful. Oh, no. Okay. Apparently, yeah, I gotta warm up a little bit. So, to get on my traditional intro for any of these streams, I, as per usual, do not remember what happened last time I played this game. In the meantime, I've started playing a different game called The Witness, which is very interesting so far. It's been I've heard a lot about the game, and from hearing a lot about the game, I figured I wanted to have my kind of playthrough and reactions recorded. Because I think it's just interesting. Oh, please do not kill me. That would be embarrassing at the very beginning. Yeah, I've been wanting to basically give that game a go, but also record kind of my impressions of it and my thought process. And so far, I think it's been a good choice to do. It's a very interesting game. I guess you could say the game's about finding out what the mechanics of the game are, which is like you could think of the entire game as the tutorial, but nobody tells you anything. Oh, I am. What the hell is happening? Okay, let's try and not perish yet. I am very much not feeling right about this game so far. I don't know why that is. My presumption is that I just haven't played it for a while, and I've played first-person games. I've not played that many games recently. What am I doing? This is not the solution. I've not played many games recently. I've played some... I guess the last thing I played is TF2 Gold Rush. So, platformers? No idea how they work. Also, I blame it on my keyboard placement being different. Feels different. Everything feels different. My life's different. Which is conveniently similar to the topic of the stream I want to talk about. Oh yeah, right, we go in this one. So the title, right? Let's get on that, because I end up repeating things 70 million times anyway. The Dead Beginning, right? The idea is kind of... It's a riff on Dead End, obviously. Everybody's familiar with the concept of a dead end, right? You have, like, existed in the world before. presumably. The dead end is a place you kind of get to, and there's nowhere else to go but backwards. You drive, you go from place to place, you have usually some kind of sign, some kind of something that informs you that you've gotten to a dead end or you're about to be in a dead end, and that, you know, if you want to actually get somewhere else, this is not the way to go through. And recently, with different things happening in my life, I've been thinking that I'm kind of in a different opposite concept, and thus the dead beginning, where you kind of you find yourself in a place that you almost didn't get to. There's like no introduction to it. It just kind of happened. Now you find yourself in a spot where there's no way to go but forward. And it's not a matter of like nostalgia or whatever looking back. It's like, oh, I wish I could go back. Because I remember the past so fondly and I have nostalgia for it, and so I wish I could go back, but I can't. It's like, no, it's very different. The way I describe this is like something's changed, something fundamental changes about reality, and then from that point on, there isn't really how it used to be doesn't exist anymore. There's no, it's not that you can't go back, because of course you can't go back. There's nothing back. I don't know. I'll try to maybe tackle it from different angles to kind of get at what I'm trying to convey. With being in the past, like, of course you can't literally go back to things that were in the past, obviously, because they were in the past, duh. Idiot, stupid. Talking to myself, of course. Like, you can't go back. You can never go back. But that's different from feeling, I guess. From that being no back. There's nothing to go back to. There could be different, like, causes or reasons to think that way, because you could think that... I think the like, major thing is something that you've taken for granted, something that was part of your life, and maybe like a major thing, maybe something you already had figured out, maybe something you were relying on being solid. Maybe something like that gets questioned or gets changed or gets shaken. Like a foundation gets shaken, and then once the foundation is shaken, you cannot go back. There's like no more, like, it's no longer a foundation. You can't go back. But it's like it's not just that you can't go back, you don't want to go back. There's no reason to go back, and you don't feel particularly bad or like nostalgic for the time before you cross the threshold, so to speak. So, to maybe bring it a little more, bring it to something a little more concrete, the current kind of revolution I'm pondering in my life is that the creator of Dance Fortress worked on this game. Interesting. I've got no idea. I couldn't tell you about that. Oh no. Oh, okay, he's alive. My kind of shocking reveal, let's say, shocking change that took me for a spin is I've started. So, you know, AI is a hot topic right now, obviously. And for a while, like, I'm generally skeptical, very skeptical in terms of how useful or good the technology is. And for the longest time, because my main work is programming. And so for the longest time, I've tried like the coding assistants and Copilot and like autocomplete or whatever, all of that. It's been, and I found it very unsatisfactory. It's not been helpful. It's been quite the opposite. It's been a major... It's been a major pain, I'd say, because I'd write code, I would know what I want to do, and I basically couldn't do it. When I was doing it, the thing would just get in the way. It would produce like large quantities of text that were kind of close to what I wanted, but not really, so I would either like take it and then fix it myself, or I would just straight up disregard the output, and then it would get in the way because it would be distracting. But for like a week or two, we've been running Claude Code in my work, and that's just different in terms of, because it can actually, it's no longer autocomplete. It doesn't just try to figure out what I'm trying to do. It actually is capable of fulfilling tasks I give it. It's capable of processing feedback. It's capable of testing stuff. It's capable of so much that basically overnight, like, writing code has become almost obsolete to me. Like, I mean, writing code by hand manually. Which is... it's a very weird place to find yourself in after you've spent, you know, after you've spent just like 7 or 8 years basically whacking the keyboard every day, and that is basically what your job is, a major part of it anyway, and something of major importance. And it's like, this is the one thing, after spending so much time on it, that I was basically like, okay, yeah, this is something I've got figured out in my life. This is something I have kind of established. Okay. And now I don't mean like I'm the best in the world at this, of course not, right? But I'm feeling... I was feeling like, okay, I have the basics done. I of course have a lot to learn, I will continuously have a lot to learn, but what I do have is like a solid grasp on what this is, what this entails, what programming and like what I'm gonna have to change over time. It's like, generally I've established a kind of solid ground, a bit of solid ground that I could have like going forward to like rely on. And all of a sudden, that is just kind of gone. It doesn't really make sense to do all of that manually when something exists that can do it faster. I don't know if better, like not necessarily better because I'm pedantic about my code, but it doesn't really matter because the speed at which you can do things and the amount of things you can actually do as one guy with the tool is just incomparable. And the amount of kind of brain space it frees for me to actually think things through and to like move through mental blocks is it's just different. It like flips what my job and work was so far on its head in a way that is cool, certainly. Like I cannot deny that, and I won't deny it because it would just be lying. I cannot say this is not useful. I cannot say it does a bad job. I cannot even say it like pretends to do a job, because at a certain point where you get the output and you actually have the output and you can modify it and you can fix it however you want, or you can inspect it, it just does the work. It's real. It does it. And so this is the kind of point I'm trying to get at with the dead beginning, right? It's like I've just been plopped into a new reality, effectively, to deal with, and it's not that I can't go back, because I theoretically could. I could just ignore like the tech, ignore the possibilities, ignore everything, and just go back to whacking at hand, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. I don't see the benefit. I don't see the good. And it's very, in a way, even though it is very strange and novel, and I'm very much not used to it, it also in another way feels natural as well. I was like, yeah, of course I can do this with a computer, like, yeah. Because, like, I would define things. So, like, a big part of actually getting work done in terms of coding is arranging what is to be done, what order, what systems need to exist, all that, putting it into place, making sure it's cohesive, making sure it covers all the needs of the client, of the customer, I guess you could say. And then from that point, you have a lot of kind of menial labor where you already know what needs to be done. You already have all the important pieces in place and arranged, and then there's the plumbing, where you actually need to go at it and whack at the code until it takes the shape that you need it to have. And that portion is what has just been deleted from my life, effectively. Because it's like, okay, yeah, everything is defined. Like, this is clearly, like, already... everybody should be basically able to figure out how to plug the components back together once I've already defined what needs to be done. And now the computer actually does it, which is very strange. Very strange feeling. Hello, Elias. Welcome to Rambling. In a new place, a new environment, new situation. Hopefully there's like 2 additional noise sources in this place, so hopefully that isn't a big deal on the stream. From what I've briefly tested, it sounds fine, but I don't know. Worst case scenario, the stream is unlistenable and everybody's going to leave after 2 seconds. Why am I even going here? There's literally nothing to do in this corner. So yeah, it's been a very interesting, like, paradigm shift, getting used to just a new way to do something I've been doing for several years every day. It's very strange, and it makes me think about things. Because it's like, in general, I think it points me onto something that seems to be generally important as like an attitude to have about life, which is you want to be very careful with what you take for granted. And it might be that it didn't used to be this way, that people used to be able to take more for granted, because there was simply more, like there were less changes, were less rapid, I'd say. That's I think fair to say. Like, things would not change as much as often, but with how fast information is moving between people nowadays, I think it's basically inevitable. You are going to... It's basically inevitable you're going to get very fast changes in very many places. Then on the other hand, it's also interesting because the technology, it's like the computer is now in certain ways using itself. So if what you want to do and what you need to do is mostly about using the computer, then this new tech is like huge, and it can do so much for you that you used to have to do manually. And so it's very much a game changer. But then on the other hand, and in other spaces where you don't actually do all that much on the computer, like the quote-unquote revolution might pass you by in a way. Like, it doesn't fully, because there's obviously things you're going to there's obviously going to be places which kind of force you to interact with the tech. Like, just the fact that it becomes integrated into tech, and that you see like the outputs all over the place. I'm going to die for no reason, because I'm not paying any attention. Like, obviously all of that is going to happen, and you are going to be exposed to it in many ways, but then... But then on the other hand, it's like how impactful is it for what you actually do? That's kind of the question I'm posing. And if you don't do that much on a computer, I think for now you are somewhat safe until we get more tech effectively. Because it's like a question of how long until it becomes affordable to have robots, for example, do certain things. It's like not very science fiction to ask that question, because the tech we are currently getting is already, like, in a lot of ways it already feels like black magic, in that like, if you told me, I don't know, like a year, maybe not a year ago, because it's been a while this has been going on for, but if you told me a while ago that you will just be able to communicate with a computer in the way I now do on a daily basis effectively, I don't know if I would have believed you. I would either probably not have believed you, or I'd be asking, like, how is this possible? Because I don't see how you could code something like that. It's so unbelievably complex and complicated, to like convey, because when you communicate using like spoken languages, you effectively employ like all of human intuition to do the job of like parsing the text that you are given, like all the information you gather from not just hearing someone, but also like all the context, all the space, the like facial expressions, tone of voice, all of that. Like, you have to in some way parse to actually effectively be able to take human language and do something with it. Like, there's so much information you would need to process, and you would need to be able to like comprehend. And not only comprehend, because it's easy for you as a human to comprehend, right? But you have to somehow make the computer comprehend it, which is the most kind of unbelievable part of this. Because it's not easy by any metric, right? And then it turns out, like, it's not even programmed. Like, it's not even that people have programmed, like, people have figured it out, right? People have understood it. People have done all the things, people have gathered the information, all of that, and then at the end of that process we wrote like the incredible algorithm for understanding all things human, because we just mastered everything. It's like, no, that's not at all what happened. What happened in reality is that people made the computer learn it by itself, and we don't actually understand how the computer does it, really. We like understand how we put it together, we understand what it entails, but we don't actually understand the computer itself now. We just taught it things, and it does things, and it is reliable enough at doing things to be useful, but it's not that, like, we are learning about it, like the study's looking into it, because it's not like something programmed, it's not that somebody made it do that as a matter of intention. It's also humbling in a lot of ways. It's, how do I say this? Okay, let's start with this thought, because this one is, closer in my head to being, like, expressible. Okay, let's go here. There's clearly Okay, how do I start it? Because I'm like barely holding the fort. It's humbling because, like, you could have thought that humanity is all about this kind of understanding and reasoning and processing things, and we can do something that no other species can do, and this is like this is kind of what being human is about, right? It's like we have this larger capacity for this kind of processing than animals do, and so we can actually do it. But it turns out it seems very much that we can make the computer do that to a level that is pretty impressive, all things considered. And it's like, this is separate because I'm not really talking about, oh, like general intelligence or whatever that concept is. Why is that guy just spinning? Where you have like the computer is able to do whatever, anything a human can do, the computer can do. Or, I'm not sure exactly what that concept actually is. AGI, yeah. I'm not like fully certain what distinguishes that concept from like a very, like, if there's a line, there's like some kind of test, like how do you even tell what that is? Because it appears to me that it's not actually at all easy to quantify what intelligence even is. It's like with skill, right? You can, not very hard to say that, oh, this guy is very skilled at a game, but and you can see like very clearly at the top of skill, like very big discrepancies in skill. It's like this guy is able to beat anyone he comes up against. Like that's a pretty clear indication that this guy is at the top of the skill level of this game's players. But what is much more difficult to actually, I think I'll have to come back here to together. What is much more difficult to establish is when you have two guys that are at that high skill level and then you try to compare between them. And it's like, well, is there a point to doing that? Can you even do that? What do you use as a metric? Like, how do you compare these? Is it quantifiable in any way? And I think in many ways it's, with intelligence it's also like that, where, am I supposed to be going here actually? Oh no, I guess I just connected back to this place, alright. How do you measure something like this? How do you measure something as complex as intelligence? Right? How do you, I mean, I know there's IQ tests and whatnot, but it's hard to escape the simple words of in practice. Because in life you would probably judge, I don't know if you would judge, because intelligence seems to be somewhat abstract, right? You would probably judge wisdom as something different from intelligence. Because it's just different criteria, right? At the end of the day, does it matter if you are in some abstract fashion intelligent, or does it matter that you are able to fulfill your duties and do good things to a satisfactory degree, right? I don't know, this is like a very, I feel like in one way it's arguing about definitions, about like little differences in wording and different bits of how do you shift? Okay, so I am here and I want to be like all the way there, so let's go there. In a way, it is in a way arguing about definitions, it is in a way being somewhat pedantic, but I think the problem is this kind of stuff is just like it forcefully, like once again, like dead beginning, right? It's like it's no longer really science fiction. It's no longer like, oh, this will could possibly happen, and what do we do if it does, and what if it is like that, what if it's like... No. This is like something you can put it on your computer right now. It's here. You can interact with it, you can find out things about it, you can experiment with it. Like, all of this is very much possible for you to do, and so we have been basically just put in a reality where this is a thing, and now there's no other way to go about it than to acknowledge that, okay, like, what do we do with this? What do we even consider thinking in a world where a computer can do this? And like, do you want to define thinking as something that is just definitionally only like only humans are actually thinking? Because I'm going to define thinking in a way that precludes anything non-human from thinking, or like what are we doing and why? Why are we using the word, right? Like, what's the point of even calling something thinking, right? Because it seems like this kind of information processing just inevitably falls within the definition of thinking. And then the secondary kind of question is like, if this is thinking, then like, what about that? Oh, this is closed. I didn't notice. This is what I mean by humbling, right? I don't think you can, if you want to be honest about this, if you want to be like honest and truthful, and you kind of have to humble yourself into... It's like, no, this is a real thing. It is clearly capable of doing this and this and that. It's capable of being productive. And that in some way compels me to do something about it. Very, very difficult. Oh, hello, Snake. The topic of conversation currently is kind of AI, I guess, but not quite just that. Because I'm thinking about how something like that just presents a point of no return, but not quite. It's like you just get plopped into a new reality, and now there's like a factor of... There's now a factor of reality that is so incredibly different to what has come before it and what has been so far, that you don't really get a choice in whether to engage with it or not. You can ignore it, but it doesn't go away. It doesn't... Like, something about reality has effectively just changed, and now it's a matter of asking the question of, well, what do I do with that, right? How do I change my behavior in order to adapt? And also, it poses questions about things that were previously didn't need to be questioned. For like, one of the this is what I just was talking about with one of the questions it poses is like, well, the computer can now think. For which is something you basically have to admit if you want to maintain a definition of thinking that makes like any degree of sense. I think you basically have to say that, yeah, computers can think now. That's just a part of reality. We can get a computer to think about things. Like, the best you can really do to kind of deny that is to redefine thinking in a way that only includes humans. Makes the whole thing weird to think about. You can still strengthen your brain, neurologically at least, with learning a ton of still very complicated stuff yourself. With AI in a way, why bother? Well, there's certainly still a very good reason to learn things and to develop your brain, even if you are going to outsource a lot of stuff you do to AI. Because at the end of the day, you want to actually know what you are doing, and you want to still be the one driving, like in the driver's seat, and not like controlling what's happening and making the choices and understanding what is being said and done. But there's also a degree, and this is something even regardless and before AI, I've been thinking about with regards to my own work, because I do have perfectionistic tendencies. I tend to like focus on details a lot. I tend to try and polish stuff. I don't know. Tend to try and put all that kind of effort into it. And while there is an aspect of virtue to it, where you actually want to have this degree of like care for the final product, also in many ways it doesn't actually matter. And in many respects, it's just selfish to focus on things like that, because there's people. Because at the end of the day, you could be providing something. I don't know if you're familiar with the Pareto. I'm not sure. I've asked this before, but it's like the Pareto principle of 80% of the effort for. Sorry, 20% of the effort for 80% of the result. And the people that need what you are doing, like need the end product, those people are very much interested in getting the 80% from you. Like, they want you to put in the 20% of the effort, they want to get the 80% of the value as fast as possible, because they have their own things to do that they want to complete, and they don't actually care that, you know, you could put in the remaining 80% of the effort and like make it the best thing ever. It's not quite. At the end of the day, you like, sure, there's place for that, and you want to actually have high standards, you want to make stuff really good, but then on the other hand, you also you want to do it in reasonable time, and trade-offs are very much acceptable in order to get things done faster. And it's similarly with this, right? It's like, maybe at the end of the day, it's like, maybe I could write the code better, and maybe it would be more polished and more consistent and all of that, but I can also make eight more things in the same time, and maybe they all will have flaws, but they will be there, and people will be able to use them, and they will, you know, provide value to the final customer. Gooding indeed. Hello. I'm currently doing a little bit of funny business, you could say. Let's go down here before we go up there. Whoa, these guys are aggressive. So it's like, this is kind of returning to like the earlier thought I had of like, it's humbling, where you have to, as I said, well, you don't have to, but would be, I think, wise and honest to acknowledge that certain things are just my bias. Certain things are just how I prefer to do things. They are a way to do it, but they are not the way to do it. They are not the only way to do it. And then, like, that takes it into a direction of just, like, what is the actual arbiter of what is good? That might be a topic familiar to you. Snake. Of, like, how do we determine, or the, actually, to Hunter as well, what is good and how do we know it? Isn't that the ultimate philosophical question that everything turns out to be related to? What is good and how do we know it? And it's not like there's no answer to the question. It's not like this is just purely rhetorical and you can't answer it in any way. It's just the answer is usually way less satisfying than solving a math problem. I'll put it that way. Because like from faith, right? I do believe that there is objective good, and there is quote-unquote the best way to do it, which would be like God's way to do it, would be the best way to do it. And that exists, and of course in certain situations you can have like equivalent solutions, but in terms of generally like thinking about things, I think this, like, humbling yourself in this way is very important, where you understand that you are not just doing things your way. It's very important for like a design process to stop somewhere. It's like, no, this is not just to be personally satisfying to the way I want to see it done. It's also a question of, because there's multiple people, right? If you make things, you usually make those things for the other people to use. And it's not that you should just cater, and because there's like the customer is always right, which is sometimes a problem. Because the customer is very frequently not right, and the slogan actually refers to something else. The slogan refers to like the proper attitude you should have to do customer support well. Because if you want to do customer support well, you want to basically make sure the customer feels like they are being taken seriously. And so them being always right is, don't argue with the customer about the technical details of what it is you are going to be doing, because they don't understand that, and they don't have to understand it. It's your job. They just give you feedback and give you info, and they expect you to handle it. So you accept the feedback, you ask the questions you need to ask in order to get the info you need, and once you do that, you solve the problem quietly and you go on your merry way, right? So it's obviously you don't ignore the customer, and you don't get everything straight from them, because you are the professional that is doing something for them. But on the other hand, you obviously don't disregard the customer, because, oh, I like my beautiful perfect design is very nice until until the annoying meddling customer gets in the way of what I want to do. Right? That's the kind. And that is something I'm pretty directly, like, this is thinking that comes very easily, I think. Probably anyone that's done, I don't know, maybe I am revealing my own kind of skill issue, but I think most people that have done... Oh, that just kills you? Okay. If you've done probably any kind of work that faces customers, and you have to talk about them with, like, talk technical problems through them, you probably have the impression of like, oh, probably the worst part of the job is the end user, because the end user is ultimately the source of all the problems, right? Like, they find the issues, they find the bugs, they report things, they misunderstand, and they require like explanations and additional like clarifying stuff, because they don't exactly see what you've done, because it's not their job, right? So it's like easy to jokingly say that and like feel that way, but at the end of the day, if there's no customer, there's no real point to what you're doing, because there's no one to do it for. And so, how do I get on this tangent? Yeah, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, there's more than just your vision. There's more than just what you want to do. There's more than what you find important. There's more than what seems correct. Because there's also the question of the other people engaged with it, and their needs, and their good. And then, like, a matter of objective standards come into play there as well, but it's not as simple as just one objective standards, because there's trade-offs, because we live in reality, and often you give one value up for another in order to do things, and then you decide kind of which trade-offs are worth it and which ones aren't, and then you also, at the end of the day, you only really validate it when it comes out, when people interact with it, and when you see by the fruit. You see how it works, you see what happens, you see how people take it, how they interact with it, what they find important, useful, what is dead wood and could effectively be removed. It's like, I guess the ultimate funny, incredibly novel concept is that the world is complicated. It's difficult to do things. It's not easy to find out what is the best thing. Gotta go. Alright, have a good one. Bye bye. Enjoy, whatever. And hello to you watching the VOD later. Lol. Timestamps 45 minutes, 30 seconds, by the way. Oh, I don't have double jump yet. I've spent too much time on easy mode with training wheels. So I don't know, it's like... You know what? I don't know, it's probably the best summary of all these rambling streams. I think, in a large way, thinking about things like this is one big exercise in specifying what it exactly means for me to not know. I'm kind of outlining the boundaries of where exactly, like which parts of reality I don't know. What am I missing? What is kind of lacking from my worldview? What should I maybe add to my perspective? And then, like, to bring it kind of back to what I was talking about earlier, it's major changes in things that seemed mostly figured out or unchangeable that I treat it as a good reminder to just to once again, like, try and not take things for granted, even more so than I already do. Because I do go out of my way to try and... treat things as... like, for example, when I write scripts, right? Because I've been doing a few over time. I do try to... Like, one of the points that I focus on and I find very important in terms of writing is figuring out what I'm saying is actually, like, I think objectively provable reality, and which is kind of my view and assumption on it that I can't really support. It's not necessarily that it cannot be supported, it's just what what I'm not as solid on, let's say. And this is interesting because people will say that, oh, like, no, you can't be objective. There's no objective truth. It's just all of it is your opinion, and everybody can have a different opinion. So, like, why do you purport to be so much better than everyone else by purporting that you have the objective opinion and everybody else is wrong? It's like, well, so... And I guess I made a whole video on this topic, which I probably should rewatch because it comes up and I don't even remember what I said in it exactly, but... Just because I have my own perspective and just because I use words a certain way and I have a certain picture of issues in my mind and I conceptualize them in a way that is unique to me, at least as far as I'm aware, because I can't exactly access the inside of somebody else's head and confirm that they in fact do think of it the same as I do, it doesn't disqualify objectivity as a concept. In fact, it's like the exact starting point from which we try to derive objectivity effectively. Because, for example, and this is something I do get in the video, but for example, for us to be able to communicate using language, which we are doing currently right now, I am using language to communicate ideas. For that to be at all possible, there has to be an objective enough meaning of the word to the point where we can agree that the word means what it means and use it in conversation, and we don't have to get hung up on, oh, but like everything is subjective and it doesn't matter. It's like, no. There is a shared meaning to the word, and that is shared enough to the point where it is basically has to be assumed for the conversation to be had in the first place. So it's like... And then if you start thinking about the definitions of words, then there's definitely words that can be... So like there's standards, right? And it's like you can assume different standards, but you can also make inferences and you can make claims about things that are truthful, kind of regardless of what you consider them to be. So, for example, I think this is a very... It comes up because, like, you know, funny TF2 lol discussion with all the cosmetics and the changes the game's gone through. It's like... You can say that the games become less cohesive over time. It's not exactly easy to prove in a way that is like numerical, because it's very hard to quantify what like the degree of cohesiveness. But if somebody's engaging in good faith and you like show them the original kind of style, which was very purpose-built to all fit together and for nothing to really stick out, and then you put that side by side with lime green banana hat with like a flashbang effect on top of it, and then the guy is also wearing a painted alien mask and he's in a clown, he's like in a bumper car, which people are gonna know what I'm referring to. But you put those side by side, and I think in good faith the point makes itself that this is in fact objectively less cohesive. And you can start getting into like mental gymnastics where you start going into like, oh, but like the incohesiveness is in itself, like its inconsistency is consistent. It's like, okay, that is just playing word games, right? It's like, if we are to have a discussion at all and we are to actually define words, and you are not just playing word games trying to win an internet argument with me, like, this is objectively... The game has become objectively less cohesive with time. And it's like, oh, but that doesn't necessarily make it good. Why would it... Sorry, it doesn't necessarily make it bad, right? It's like, why do you assume that in... Like, it's not objective that uncohesive is bad. That's just your kind of assumption, and you just kind of assume that. It's like... At that point, I'm fine to say, yeah, I prefer things to be cohesive. In fact, yes. I'd like things to... When I interact with something, when I interact with a work of art, let's say, right? Although I do not like using that word whatsoever, but I'm interacting with a work, right? I would much prefer that work to be cohesive with itself. I'd like it to not have bits sticking out like a sore thumb. I'd like it to be immersive in a way where I can take it seriously as a whole. And I'm perfectly fine to say that that is my preference, right? That is my... I prefer things to be cohesive. However, whether the thing is or isn't cohesive is a different matter entirely. Because at that point, we've chosen a standard, and there's a way to make definitive true or false statements about it. And so discarding all of that is foolish. I don't know, how did I even get on this? How did I get on objectivity versus subjectivity? Because I do not remember whatsoever. It's like a matter of, so it doesn't discard, like, it's not enough to just say, it's just tremendously lazy to go ahead and say like, oh, it's all subjective and it's just all of your opinion, bro. It's like, no. That's kind of how I got here. It's not that simple. And then... Oh yeah, mapping out where the edges of kind of my ability to comprehend things are. That is very, very closely related. Because I can make certain claims that, and when I write, I do try to delineate the two as much as possible. So I'll... and it could come across as like trying to be obtuse or like too weak or too defensive. But I think it is important for understanding the shape of things as they actually are. because when I try to speak on things, I don't just try to convey my opinion, because my opinion is just one of many, and then everybody's going to have their own opinion on my opinion, and it's honestly just not that interesting to go around in circles and like everybody spouts their opinion. I think it's much more interesting to try and map out... It's much more interesting, I think, to try and map out the shape of the reality we kind of inhabit. It's very interesting to try and name things, and then try and name other things, and then find patterns in it, and then within those... And like, expressing an opinion seems like just the like crowning conclusion to that whole process, where you, in a way, you kind of earn your right to have an opinion on the topic. Because you have built like a framework, and you have built like a bunch of cohesive, connected thought around it. And then from that basis, when you... Like, only with that basis of like this kind of foundation, you can make points that are really valuable as an opinion. Because the opinion's just like, it's like a cherry on top. It's like if somebody wants to understand you better, they listen to the opinion. But if somebody wants to understand the actual subject and issue better, they listen to the reasoning. So it's like a very different... It's a very different, I think, approach to what the focus of what you're trying to say is. Are you trying to just provide the correct opinion or take on it, or are you trying to get at something bigger? Are you trying to just take somebody else's thing down, or are you trying to like build something? And this is not... Please do not take this as like, oh, you're just don't be negative, just be positive instead, because that is not what I'm trying to say. I do not like in the slightest the idea that, oh, like, don't criticize things, don't be overly critical, you know, just positive things, and like, oh, like, always do the compliment sandwich. It's like, I know the point of that. I know you want generally, like, it's smart to just convey feedback to people in a way that makes it easier for them to process and understand, because it's not easy to make things, it's not easy to like put it out there and like subject it to other people's critical eye, let's say. None of that's easy, so I'm definitely sympathetic, but at the end of the day, I'd really like something different. I'd really like engagement, you could say. It's a dirty word in today's internet climate, but it's certainly changed my view, because I think a lot of the time, you get people that do what I'm saying I would like to see more of, and I'd like to also engage in. As in this kind of mapping out of the structure of like what is there and how things work and what is important versus what isn't. What is kind of a red herring versus what is an actual highly important concept. I think a lot of the time people hyper-focus on the kind of resulting opinions of that because somebody thinks it through, somebody has certain ideas, I don't know, about like, oh, somebody like had a bunch of thoughts about game design and like have a particular way to go about it, and so they make games a particular way and they talk about them a particular way, and so that gets seen as like, oh, it's like this guy's pretentious, or he's just like very close-minded and like set in his ways, etc. It's like, I don't really think that's necessarily important. I think it's fine for somebody to kind of do the entire... I think it's okay for somebody to basically contribute to the conversation in that particular way they like focus on the most. It's okay for a guy to explore a certain idea about making games, for example, where it's like, oh, I think what games should be is I want the game itself to convey ideas without the need of me, the developer, to kind of step in and explain the game to the player. I'd like to instead construct the game in a way that lends itself naturally to the player discovering the mechanics, which I'm alluding to The Witness, of course, which I've been playing a bit. And it's okay for that guy to go on that quest and then make statements that are like definitive and spicy and maybe contradictory to other games, because he's in the particular niche he is, and it's okay for him to be in it, and it's maybe even necessary for him to go hard into it and not like do a million qualifiers for each statement like I'm doing all the time. Because it's like specialist, it's like specialization versus general ability or general focus. You want, because at the end of the day, because we can exchange the ideas, because we can communicate with one another, we have a magnificent array of tools for sharing information. It's okay for that guy to specialize, and it's okay for him to have an opinion that I don't necessarily agree with. Like, I could even strongly disagree with it, and it's still very valuable for me to listen to... It's valuable for me to listen to what he has to say, but not because... It's not because he disagrees with me. It's not because he has a different opinion, because there's a lot of people that are going to have a very different opinion from mine that are not going to be very useful to listen to. What is actually valuable is that the guy has a certain, like, conceptualization of reality, and he talks about it, and he brings it up, and he understands the world in a certain way. And the opinion is almost irrelevant, because it's a result of how he looks at things, and what is actually interesting and important is how he looks at things, how he conceptualizes them, how he, like, figures the concepts out. Look at you stating idea correctly. My little turtle grown up. I don't even know which word I pronounced correctly. Did I used to pronounce idea wrong? Am I stupid? I might be stupid. So it's just, I don't know, maybe this is what they call the mythical mythical concept of media literacy. Maybe that's what I'm discovering. Of like, oh look, there's actually things going on. ID? Really? I might be stupid. Like the concept of media literacy, where you read beyond the surface. Because, oh look, you clearly didn't understand what this was actually about. It's like, well... This just seems like there's more to things than initially imagined. It's not just reading beyond the surface, it's just focusing on very different things. And I find this also, I think this is where it becomes very important to stress the difference between people that make things and people that only consume things. Because the perspective is very different, and the kind of way somebody that arranges ideas when they consume things is very different from the kind of way you get when somebody tries to build things. You need to conceptualize things in a way that when you make things, you get to contend with constraints, and the constraints, there's no way around them usually. It's just there's a certain aspect to reality that you just have to work around, and there's no shortcuts and no cheating. Well, In a way that, like, the shortcut is the method you invent, right? You invent the method. It's like with computing, for example, there's no shortcuts to... Like, there's the base complexity of the problem, and you cannot shortcut your way around the base complexity. You need to perform a number of operations. And you cannot get around that in, like, some crazy clever way that just skips everything. But you can cut out all the fat from the calculation. And you can be smart about it. You can not repeat yourself at all, etc. To, like, reduce drastically the amount of time things take and, like, computing power. But, like, yeah, when you create things, you budge against constraints, and you also, in a lot of ways, work with a blank canvas. Of course, it's not blank as soon as you start putting things on it, but it's a very different starting point, and you realize that there's actually... It's not... I recently, like, read or heard this phrase being said. It's like, you realize it's not a puzzle with a solution. It's something to engage with, and something to work with, and to come to some kind of conclusion on. Because it's not designed. It's not like, you know, you play a puzzle game and the puzzle game has a defined solution to the puzzle, and a mark and a sign of a good puzzle is that there's one solution to it and there's no, like, cheese, you know, and weird stuff you can do to also quote-unquote solve the puzzle. But then in actual real problems, you just you budge against reality, and you hit your head on the wall, and there's nothing like that. There's no guarantee that the problem is solvable. Like, the only guarantee that the problem is solvable is that you've solved similar problems before and you've managed to solve them. And then you kind of go into it thinking, like, yeah, okay, this seems very much like something I can handle, and this is kind of how you do it. And then you plan for it, and then you figure out, yeah, okay, I see. So you start looking at things from a very different perspective when you look at it from the perspective... Yeah, of course, when you look at it from a different perspective, you start seeing things from a different perspective. Like, well, duh. But it's clearly different when you try to figure things out to the degree that you can actually make something out of them, and then you not only think them through, but you actually go and make it, because then you submit it to the ultimate test in actual practice, which is because there's no test, right? Once again, it's like, it's not a problem with a solution, and so there's also no test for kind of capability or being able to do it. You are able to do it when you are able to do it, and you see that somebody's able to do it because they've done it. And there's really no other metric. There's no other point, there's no other way. You just go ahead, you do it, and if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And that ties back to the humbling experience. Because yeah, this is once again the same humbling experience. It's like you've done it, it works in reality, it works in practice. You've been able to fix issues, and it's taken you a certain amount of time, and that's what it is. Like, there's nothing more to it. It's just, you either have done it or you haven't done it, and there's no proper way. It's like, oh, he did it by the book, and it's like perfect, etc. It's like, okay, that's nice. But like, was it actually worth the cost? Was it worth the time? Could you have done something else? And the answer to this question is not obvious either way. You don't necessarily... You don't know. Maybe there's a certain degree of importance to actually following through to the ultimate conclusion, and to actually making the thing as perfect as it can be. Or maybe there isn't. Can you really know that? I don't know. It's certainly, even if you can, it's certainly not obvious. It's like the kind of flip side of the... Because I was talking about the process of figuring things out and naming them and laying them out being more interesting and important than the actual opinion. And that also, in a way, makes me almost hesitant to even discuss my own opinions and things. Because I feel like that is almost unimportant. Like, it doesn't really matter what I think about a certain thing. It only matters insofar as somebody actually wants to... Like, if somebody already if somebody agrees with me, they like to hear the validation. If somebody disagrees with me, maybe they like to hear, like, get a bit angry or, like, refute my points. But in terms of contributing value to the conversation, I think it's not the opinion that does that. This is the most abstract monologue I've heard in a while. Well, welcome to the stream. This is kind of what I do, because from time to time, my brain overflows with thoughts like this, and I feel like I need to pull the lever and then allow it to kind of dissipate. And this is basically what I've been doing with these streams. I like take a hardly coherent set of thoughts that I have and try and convey them to people to maybe, hopefully, find some way to them. It's also running around, it's also a lot of running in circles. Like, I don't pretend that all I'm saying is continuously original. I'm kind of just probably rotating around a set of like 4 ideas, presumably. And it's just that they are fairly complex ideas, so you can take a look at them from very different angles and kind of arrive at the same place in many different ways. Good background noise for drawing? Well, happy to provide, I suppose. Enjoy drawing. It's cool stuff. It is just interesting. A lot of things are interesting. But if you allow me to have this spicy take, opinions are actually not that interesting. Opinions are perhaps one of the least, well, not least, but one of the less interesting things you could be having and discussing. Oh, please don't. Posting cringe on Twitter. Sorry. So I don't know, yeah, I've been especially kind of just going back and forth on a lot of this since I've had such a harsh kind of change happen with no real warning about it. And so I'm very curious about where I go from here and what kind of to do and what will actually happen, because it seems that it doesn't seem like the changes in technology are about to stop anytime now. I don't know, maybe that's something like people more skeptical of the tech are probably going to disagree on, but for me it seems that it's not gonna stop. Like, I don't see why it wouldn't be integrated in many more things. Especially with the capabilities it has. What change happened? Oh, I was talking earlier in the stream of like, we've started using Claude Code for working, and basically from the day I started using it, I've figured that programming by hand is basically obsolete, which is what I've been doing for the last like 7 or 8 years of my life, which is, and it's just like that, it's just mostly gone. Because you can get things done faster, and you can get things done, you can get more things done thanks to that, and it also like frees my brain up to do more conceptual work on like the structure and architecture of the entire thing instead of focusing on moving code from one place to another. And it's in general like the tech of that you can just ask it questions, and it has, like, the way I describe it is the tool has basically negative friction, where basically anything you want to do, you can get started with it at almost zero cost of entry, and then from like the first round of questions you already get a better vocabulary, and you get a general kind of like frame to even approach the topic from, which is something which then just lets you be smarter about how you approach it, how you work with it. And it's just it's just new. It's nothing, it's like nothing I've seen before. Because all the tech usually is that, oh, this new thing came out, so you have to learn it, you have to apply it, then you have existing projects which you have to migrate to it, and then it has like downsides to it that get in the way all the time until you figure out how to work around them. So there's a lot of friction. This one, this is currently just negative friction. It just applies, you turn it on and it works wherever you already are. It works in your code style, which it finds in the thing. It finds other things and reuses them. It doesn't just dump all the code. It's like configurable. It's manageable. It works fast. It does a lot. It's like, I don't know. It's a paradigm shift. Would also imagine the role shifts instead to code review. It's not quite. It kind of is, because you do have to review the code. You can't just like do random things and hope it works. You want to have a certain degree of understanding of what's going on under the hood. But then on the other hand, I also have been testing to like figure out how viable making things from scratch and not even looking at the code is. And it is pretty viable, since it can take feedback and it can adapt to it, and you can test things manually on the actual running thing and then give it feedback and let it fix things. Like, don't get me wrong, it's quite important to understand what you're doing and know the code and be able to edit it manually as well, but it is in a way code review. It's also I will repeat this from earlier because I think it's an important piece of information. It's like, it basically gets rid of all the kind of repetitive mental labor of trying to... So you start by designing something, and you design like, oh, this is how the data is going to be stored, and this is how the data is going to be displayed, which is like the two opposite ends. And then in a usual like application, web application, which is what I mostly do, you have the database, then you have some kind of layer to access the data, you have the application on the server, and that sends the data over to the client reads it and then stores it in some way and then displays it in the UI. That's like the layer. And if you define both ends of it, you define the database end, and you design what the UI at the end is going to look like, you basically have defined all the important things that the design needs. You already have the two most important pieces. And so what I can do now is I can outsource effectively implementing all the things in between, which could take like a week to type in, and now I just get it in like 15 minutes, which is stupid. But it's now something that just is real, and it's not really ignorable. It's very cool in terms of how much it can be done. It's just really, really weird. So I'm not sure how this applies in coding, but I know that Claude just makes stuff up for me on some kind of basis. They regularly pull information from other machines and say, yeah, this applies. I don't know how specific the thing you are doing is. I also don't know which model you are using specifically, because there's differences between the free version and the paid version. I don't know which model the free version uses. I don't know which one the paid, like I know which one the paid one does. And there's also it can't do very specific things. You would have to give it like an instruction manual to learn from first, in order to actually do something specific, because if you, for example, give it a programming language that isn't very popular and doesn't have many things like written about it, it's probably not going to know what to do. But then it can be shockingly decent at learning if you give it the right kind of information to work with. That's what I've been... Use Sonnet 5 helping me troubleshoot, so like glorified search engine. Yeah, that's the least kind of thinking model. It's still plenty good in terms of summarizing things and like transforming information from one thing to another. And I use it for coding because I use it as like a glorified code input tool where it's like, oh, I have this thing that needs to work like this, and then, you know, I'll tell you I want to get it done, but I actually do not want additional thinking because I've done the thinking, I know how it is, I know how it should be, so I just want this typed in. But then, like for the time, because Fable 5 is now not available, but that thing is kind of scary in terms of its ability to give you, for example, feedback on things and problems. It's pretty good at spotting where you have holes in your thinking, for example. Like I've given it scripts. Like I write something, I write a script for containing a bunch of ideas I've been thinking about, or like a way to arrange things, and it's like, oh, here's something you are missing, here's like a hole in argumentation, here's where somebody will see that you've not thought it through to the extent necessary. And then can connect ideas from like the beginning of the script to the end, and it's pretty solid for that. Like it is very hard for me to deny the like thinking capabilities of it. It's better feedback than I'd usually get from people that you hand something to and you ask for feedback. It's like rarely are you going to get a review that kind of puts forth that much thought on what you wrote. And it's also like different when you give it access to files, and then it can also plan things and kind of like informs itself about different things. So it's like having a search engine, but it's attached to your code base, and it's also capable of like spitting things out directly into files. Very strange. I don't know, it's like I've tried to be extremely skeptical of the tech for a long time, but with like now looking at how much I can actually do with it, and it's like it's real code, right? And you can bet my perfectionistic ass is not thrilled necessarily about handing all the code away to something else, but on the other hand, it's also, it just makes sense because for the last however long I've been the biggest bottleneck in like everything we've been doing, I think, because I only can do so much. I'm just one guy, I have one brain which is limited in its capacity to think and process information. And I also have one pair of hands for typing. So even with like a better, like proper keyboard technique and whatever, there's only so much I can actually output and arrange. And then this just blasts past that limitation, where now my thinking is more limited than my ability to like get code out there. Because it's actually, it concentrates the, I think, most kind of difficult and demanding part of the job, which is actually figuring things out, arranging them, making architectural and design decisions. And that is now very condensed, because it's just on the forefront of things. It's like that's the biggest thing you will be doing, and then the code part, which used to be kind of used to be somewhat relaxing even, where it's like, sure, yeah, you have to do some like you have to put mental effort in it, because it's still like you still need to think about what you're doing, but it's very much more mechanical and it's simple, contrary to the conceptual work where you kind of have a blank piece of paper, you have a bunch of things that you've heard from the client, and you have to figure out, okay, what application are we actually making? How is it going to be structured? What components is it going to have? How is it going to be split into code, etc., etc. It's very, very, very different. Very different work. Very different load as well it puts on the brain. But then I've also found it frees a lot of it does free a lot of my head for other things. Because no longer having to hold all the code like line by line in my head in order to do things and transform all of that, it allows me to focus on different things and like put more effort into processing the ideas I'm kind of working with. Especially after somewhat letting go of like, okay, a different mindset. It's no longer that I'm writing every line of code, because it's already not really possible at the scale of the projects we are working on, and because there's more than one project as well, it's impossible for me to remember all the code I've written. It's the code bases are huge. There's like so much that goes into kind of designing and building a module and all that jazz. So it's like it's not reasonable for me to hold all of that in my head. And so now this process, so I've basically like I unload the things I use the least from the brain and like details in order to kind of focus on the bigger picture. And this just happens faster now, effectively. That's kind of how I conceptualize this. I have to imagine this extreme capability is somewhat limited to coding. Maybe it's limited to how much information it has access to. Finding manuals for what I do is not simple. Oh yeah, definitely. I've also kind of talked about this a moment ago with like... It's definitely different depending on how computerized your field is at the moment. It certainly makes a lot of difference when you work with information and when you transform stuff on the computer from like one format to another a lot, or you like communicate with a bunch of people and you send a bunch of emails and receive them, and then like you try to organize things. And also coding, all sorts of stuff that requires kind of transforming ideas from one format to another. It's tremendously useful. Script writing also, like designing things, etc. When you're trying to find holes in your thinking, or like lay things out, or you want to make a diagram but you don't actually want to make an entire diagram, because it turns out like the 5 bullet points, you've written effectively describe the system you want. It's just, it requires a little bit of plumbing, so you get it to generate a diagram based on the bullet points, and you see if it's correct, and if it's correct then that means the bullet points are understandable, and you also have like a bonus diagram for it as well. So it's like, and it's also like a universal adapter. You can use it to get data from one format to another, and it doesn't matter if it's like a proprietary binary data format or it's some other nonsense. It's like I can take a script, I can attach it to a Figma file and then generate 100 slides from it, so that I don't have to create all of them by hand and name them all by hand and put in all the text by hand. It's like, of course I go over it, I replace most of the text because I'd like it to be in my kind of writing style and my ideas, and I also add some style to it, but then not having to set everything up manually is such a massive time save in terms of being able to do things. And like, for now it's office work and it's ideas. I do not know how useful it is going to be in physical spaces and how fast. Because there's clearly work being done to, like on robots for example, and like manipulating things in the real world. Like, that seems to be steadily improving over time. We'll probably see that sooner or later. And it's like, it seems almost inevitable Yeah, I find it hard to believe that we wouldn't get there. Although, I don't know, maybe I'm too... Because I also don't want to, like, over-predict in spaces I don't have that much knowledge about. Which, like, physical doing of things I don't have that much knowledge about. I don't know, it's like, basically the biggest thing is it's a very interesting time. Very uncertain about where this is going or like what I'm going to do about it. But it's certainly taken a very unavoidable place in my life in terms of the job I do, but just more broadly in terms of what I can do. And it asks about a bunch of very interesting questions as well. Of like, what we consider important versus not important. Doing things in the real world is hard, yeah. Definitely. That is a lesson I certainly get every single time I do things in the real world. It is exactly that. For all the faults of computers and all the annoyances, it's much easier to actually solve problems on computers than it is to solve problems in physical matters. Because you like mess things up and then you can't, you know, roll back a save state. You don't have version control. You don't have all the things that you do have in computing, which are extremely nice for wrangling complex things. I guess the compensation is that you get very, very complex interlocking things, and a lot of them. But I also don't have like a good point of reference for what this looks like on for a physical job, so... Like, obviously I'm most familiar with the complexity in the things I'm actually doing the most of, and it's difficult for me to understand what the level of exact complexity is in other fields. And we are back here. I think this is where I started, no? Which is a pretty good place to probably end the stream, because it is like... Is it 1 AM yet? Not quite. It's midnight. And I am a little bit falling asleep, is what I'm gonna say about that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how coherent the rambling was today. I've basically just tried to get this subject kinda off my chest a little bit. Because it's just something I'm kind of running in circles in my head over and over again. I don't know if it's very productive to do so. But it seems somewhat unavoidable with how kind of intrusive this has been in terms of, well, forcing me, I guess, in a way to have a stance on the issue, because it's just here. It's just here, and it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. It's also exciting, also scary, also I don't know. Interesting. It's an interesting time. Things are changing. A lot of things are changing. More things than that, but this is kind of what I focused on. So it's like, yeah, to tie it back to the title of the stream, right? It's like, it's a dead beginning. Something has shifted. I'm in a different place. There's not only... Going back is not really even a question or a concern. It's just a matter of how to move forward from this point. Interesting stuff. Alright, I am not actually capable of concluding this in any better way, because I am falling asleep rapidly, so... This is going to be it for this stream. Thank you very much for sticking by for the chatting. Nice catching up from the time... In the rare times I actually get back on the computer to do something else other than crunch information that is somewhat important for various things. So, yeah, gaming time's been somewhat limited in order to fit a lot of other things into the same time slot. But yeah, alright, that's gonna be it. I need to go to bed very much. Again, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your whatever time of day you have it. And shout out Snake on the VOD watching. Thank you very much. Good night. Goodbye. Have a good one.